In this section, we're going to talk about how to actually plant your citrus tree. And the one item that I will note here is that this section is going to specifically focus on how to plant your citrus tree in a garden container or pot. In the next section, we will talk a little bit about how to actually do the planting outside. Most of my followers, though, live in an area that citrus trees cannot stay in the ground year-round. So that's why this part of the course is going to focus on actual pots. So how do you actually plant a citrus tree in a pot? There's a couple key components and steps that I always recommend. Again, as a reminder, you can find these in the printable workbooks online on this course, and you have access to it forever. Also, feel free to email me. We're not talking about how to actually grow lemon trees from seed, but if you need advice, help, or even a video demonstration, I'm more than happy to do so. So let's get started. A couple key components or supplies that I recommend having is, number one, and in my most, my favorite is the garden pot tray. This tray will save you a lot of headaches and potentially arguments if you're married. And so what this garden tray is, very simply, is I put my pot, and this is a different size pot, but I put my pot on here, and if you overwater by chance, all of the water will collect down here. So this is huge because a few years ago, when we started growing some different types of lemon trees indoors, I overwatered and ruined the basement floor. So as you can tell, that probably wasn't a good thing for a couple newlyweds, in their new house. So I've learned since then, the garden tray collects the water, haven't had a problem since. Second, it's very easy to pull. So, a lot of people, if they're picking up a mature citrus tree in a pot, again, that could be with soil, that could be 30, 40, 50 pounds. A lot of the times it's just safer and easier to pull it. So that's why I recommend the garden tray. So once you have your garden tray, recommend taking a pot, and again, I'm assuming that you have maybe a smaller type of citrus tree that you're just going to transplant. Let's say you just bought it from the nursery, just got it from online, and you want to put it in a garden pot. So I'm going to make the assumption that you already purchased a smaller type of tree, you got it online, or you just transported it from the local nursery. So we're going to focus on actually planting it into a pot like this. Very simply, what we're going to want to do once we have our pot is we are going to use our potting mix soil, and we'll fill it up about 2/3 of the way. And if you look 2/3 of the way, you can measure it, right? Like just take a tape measure from the bottom of your pot to the top. And then whatever's 2/3 of the way, that's where we want to fill our potting mix soil up to. After we do that, the next step is the most important step to the actual planting, and that is watering. Most gardeners make the mistake of actually planting their plant and then watering it. What I recommend is actually, once you get the initial 2/3 of soil in, then go ahead and use some water and just maybe for about 10 seconds, water your soil. This will allow, when you put the root ball or you put a mature sapling into it, will allow your tree to immediately start absorbing water from the soil. So we want it, again, 2/3 of the way high. We then want to go ahead and just water it for about 10 seconds. After we do that, we're going to go ahead and just take that tree that we have, whether it came just root bare, root ball, or if it was already in a container, we want to go ahead and just plant it right in here and fill it all the way to the top with your garden soil. Why I recommend, which is a little bit different than some others, of planting it all the way to the top with soil, is that over time that soil is going to compact and just decrease in size. So I've made the mistake of just starting off with maybe a half of a pot filled with soil and then filling it 2/3 of the way. And next thing I know, I look down, a couple months later, and the roots are showing, and that's just not a good look, and it's not fully healthy for your plant or tree. So in this case, again, I recommend 2/3, like I just said, put in your tree, and then go ahead and fill it all the way to the top. Once you do that, I still like to recommend just watering it another 5 or 10 seconds. Again, that first water is so essential because really when you have that tree, whether you bought it at a local nursery, you bought it online, it's in shock, right? It is used to being in the ground and now it's not. If it was shipped, it might have been, in the mail for a couple of days. If you bought it at a store, who knows what type of watering system that they had. So it's really critical that right away we actually go ahead and water our plant. And so once we do that, we're just going to go ahead and find just the perfect location in the house. And I'll talk about that in a little bit around the light, fertilizing, how to make sure we're properly caring against pests and bugs. But for this, it's that easy. Literally, we take our pot, we put some soil in it, we water it, we put our tree in it, more soil, water, and you're done. So now that I've given you step-by-step directions on how to plant your citrus tree, let's focus on the assignment. The assignment is very simple. Take your time and go ahead and plant your citrus tree in a pot. This should only take you about 5 to 10 minutes maximum. If you have any questions after you do it, if you're worried about it, feel free to, again, send me a message. I'm more than happy to help you along the way.